When they asked me to pray for the LGBTQ community, at first I was honored and thrilled, and then I was convicted. I'm not sure how to do that. I've never been a part of a vulnerable community. I've been a part of powerful communities all of my life and never been a part of a persecuted community. Short doesn't count. When we lose someone, we have two feelings immediately. One is we wish we'd have built a better relationship. And the other is, and I've been searching my heart, is there anything I did that was complicit in that loss? I'm going to continue searching, but I will not presume to know what this community is going through, the LGBTQ community. And so I asked Equality Florida to send someone. And my new friend, Victoria Kirby York, who is the National Director of Campaigns for the National LGBTQ Task Force. I'm going to keep saying those initials often enough that they roll off my tongue. I asked her to come and just share, maybe with many of us who would not know, what to pray for in that community right now, what to consider that we might not understand. Victoria, could you help us?
Thank you, Pastor Hunter. Good evening, beloved community. Thank you so much for being here, for standing in the gap for so many of our community members. Some of you who are here, so many who aren't here, those who are watching, and those who wish they could be here. I grew up about 50 minutes away from here in a town called Brandon, Florida, and lived here until recently, and have a lot of friends across Central Florida, many who frequent Pulse nightclub, many who lost friends Sunday. And as I heard about the news, like many of you, I was heartbroken. I wanted to search out ways in which I could come back home to Florida and get engaged and see what I could do to provide any kind of healing that I could do. And I can tell you that standing up here right now, looking at all of you, is such a beautiful sight. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why it matters so much, the LGBTQ community, that each and every one of you are here in a church. In a church yesterday at the vigil, Nadine Smith, the CEO of Equality Florida, Florida's largest statewide LGBTQ advocacy organization, said that after everything happened, she received 2 questions over and over again from texts, Facebook messages, phone calls. The first question was, what can I do to help? And she said in doing that, millions of dollars have been raised in helping to support victims and survivors' families. Thank you for all of you, any of you who donated. There was a call put out for blood to help in the health care of people still battling for their lives, and an overwhelming number of you gave blood, stood in line to give blood. Some of you showed up to make donations of water yesterday to help create memorial spaces for folks who are grieving, to help serve. Many of the pastors here have been serving as healers and counselors. The second question that she received very often is, can any good come out of this? And her response to people has been, no good will come out of this. but we can make good come out of this. And I was really struck by what she said. Because as the National Campaigns Director of a national LGBTQ advocacy organization, I look into the faces of so many people who've been kicked out and rejected by their churches. 13-year-olds who are forced to live on the street because they've been kicked out of their homes. 35% of homeless youth in this country are LGBTQ youth, even though we represent less than 5% of the population. And many of those young people have been kicked out because they have family members, parents specifically, who have not accepted who they are and who they love. We also look at the suicide rates amongst LGBTQ people, particularly LGBTQ youth. Again, over a third of suicides, one of the leading causes of death, sadly, for far too many young people, come from the LGBTQ community. Again, less than 5% of the population. So death has been a reality that we experience for those who have attempted to take their lives, for the dozens of transgender women, particularly of color, who've lost their lives due to hate crimes over the last couple years and before. And so when we look at that question, how we can make good come out of this moment, my charge to you all for this prayer is for grace, for graceful conversations with each other and for each other, to come into those conversations on both sides from a place of wanting to understand, wanting to heal, wanting to empathize. Because our community, for far too many, have never witnessed a sight like this. A church where they can come, be prayed over, and not be forced to change who they are or who they love. For some people, this image that I'm staring at right now exists only in their dreams. And I got involved in this work because as a Christian and as a person it was my number one goal as a kid to learn how to read the Bible by 3rd grade, to read it through. Like that was my motivation, to learn how to read. And the verse that has always stuck with me and that I say to so many in the LGBTQ community is that beloved verse, John 3:16, that whosoever shall believe shall have everlasting life. And that whosoever in red had no asterisk. That whosoever, it didn't say whosoever who's black or whosoever that's white or whosoever that's Latino or Asian or indigenous. It didn't say whosoever that's cisgender or transgender or lesbian, gay, bisexual or queer or questioning. It said whosoever, full stop. And because of far too much pain, and I appreciated your words, Pastor, for far too much pain that's come from family, friends, and yes, even in the church, even with a majority of people of faith in this country affirming LGBTQ people, which is a watershed moment, happened just a couple years ago, we still have far too many people who don't believe that God's love extends to them. So in our prayer, I urge you tonight and every night to pray for those graceful conversations that will help bridge the gap in communities and in families here in Orlando and across the world. And because there are far too many LGBTQ people who've never had this experience, for those in the audience who would like to be prayed over tonight, who would like to come to the altar and feel comfortable coming down to do so, to feel God's love tonight in this moment through prayer, please feel free to come to the altar if you feel comfortable and so led.